Good afternoon, everybody. This is Doc Sander with our first episode of Lunch with Doc. The purpose of Lunch with Doc is to provide our assistant coaches and our administrators a little bit of a takeaway, something that they can use as they connect, prepare, and lead. So really excited about this initiative, and we really came up with this because of the survey responses that we got from the attendees at TopConnect. So we're excited about this, and at the end of each of these sessions, we'll try to put together some takeaway that everybody can take away with them that will help them in their professional career and actually within their with their entire life. So that's kind of the purpose. And this week, we're really excited to have three guys who came together to form an initiative called Coaches for Action. And I think what this has done is really bring focus to social justice, diversity, and inclusion in the world of sport. But I think because sport is such a microcosm of society, this is something, and because coaches have so much influence on so many people, this is something that can really move forward. So the three coaches, excuse me, that we have in the program are first of all, Dwayne from Marquette, Justin Gainey from Marquette, and Kyle Neptune from Villanova. So Kyle, why don't you tell us a little bit about how this whole initiative of Coaches for Action got started?
Thanks, Doc. Appreciate that. And thanks for having us and giving us the opportunity to speak with you guys. Well, I'll backtrack just a little bit and just talk about a little bit about my personal journey a little bit in terms of the social injustice kind of initiative. After George Floyd, like just watching that on TV over and over, there were so many emotions that I was dealing with personally: anger, fear, sadness. But as I started to unpack those feelings more and more, I realized that the thing that I was feeling the most was guilt. And the guilt portion of it comes from not knowing that I haven't done enough. And I'm sitting around just trying to figure out what I can actually do to be a part of healing and being part of inclusion and being a part of helping. And it was kind of crazy. Dwayne Killings, who is one of my really close friends, kind of just gave me a call while I was unpacking all these different feelings. And he was like, hey, I think we should try to meet with all the minority coaches in the Big East. And throughout those meetings, getting to know those guys and hearing a bunch of different stories, we kind of I don't want to say slap this thing together, but over time, we kind of narrowed our focus and came up with some things that we could actually do to help the African American community. And the three things that we came up with were initiatives around voting, around education, and the education piece is really surrounding starting a scholarship for African American to a first generation African American student to go to one of the Big East schools, one of the 11 Big East schools. And then the last piece is a Black Lives Matter patch that we asked the Big East to put on display on all the jerseys, all the men's basketball jerseys. So that's kind of a short version of how we started and where our initiatives went. And we're really excited about it. And the biggest thing for me so far has been getting to know all the guys within the Big East. And we're all fierce competitors. And we compete so much. But this initiative, I think the guys would agree, is just, we all felt this is just bigger than basketball. It's just way bigger than basketball. It's way bigger than us, and it's way bigger than our kind of need to compete and kind of be separate. So we're just really excited about it.
Yeah, I'm excited about it too. And maybe I'll ask Dwayne, when you kind of came up with this, did you really have really have the idea of forming an organization, or was it just trying to get people together? What were your thoughts about that?
I think it started with just trying to get guys together, so we could talk, so we could kind of figure out how we could grow our ideas. But one of the big things that Kyle came up with was the word action. Like, how do we take action? I think there's so many great groups going on right now that are trying to find a way to impact their communities, impact their programs, impact their coaching staffs, their athletic departments. But we wanted to make sure we created action and make sure it's sustainable. I think like we're all doing right now, we've all fallen in front of a computer screen all day doing Zooms, trying to get better at what we're doing, trying to create these conversations. But we wanted to make sure that not only are they happening in July, they happen in January and February. So a lot of the things that we created right now, we feel like that it sustains the conversation. And it also continues, I think, the promises that we all make as coaches, no matter if you're a high school coach, a college coach, a professional coach, you make a promise to these young men that you're going to make them better people, better students, and better basketball players. Well, you know, what we're trying to do right now for our players and for our programs, we're trying to make them better people. And we believe solely, collectively, the 21 of us, that if we can make them better people, they're going to become better basketball players. That's really important to us. And the response has been terrific. Obviously, we got a lot of traction in the media, but I think the best responses that we've gotten are, you know, the people that lead our institutions, and then also our peers in the business. And people want to be a part of what we're trying to do. They want to carry our message along. So we're really excited. And I think one thing that we were surprised at, this can be really, really big and really, really impactful. So now we're trying to figure out how we can grow it and how we can protect it and make sure it's something that will be here to stay.
Yeah, well, Justin, that was one of the questions I was going to ask you. What do you see as the future of you know, coaches for action? We have there you go.
Here we go, Doc. Thanks again. Thanks again for having us. You know, I think it's a bright future for Coaches for Action. I think you have 21 individuals that are highly motivated and, you know, that has the best interest of the student athlete at heart. And, you know, it's exciting, you know, in all of our meetings, you know, for everybody to come together and voice their different ideas. And, you know, in each community, there will be some different actions that we take. And, you know, starting off just with the voter registration and that drive to create awareness around voting, how important it is to be active in voting, and knowing that's, you know, one of the greatest areas our student athletes can and us as coaches can influence and have an impact on this situation and on the direction that we're going.
One thing I just want to kind of say for the general folks who are watching and listening, if you have any questions, please feel free to go and, you know, chat those, send a message, and, you know, our guys will respond. But, you know, jumping back to Kyle, talk a little bit about the scholarship and how you guys are going to fund it, and if there's any way that, you know, anybody can support that scholarship.
Thanks, Doc. Yeah, so with the scholarship in particular, we're in the process right now of we realized that, you know, one of the things that one of the first things we wanted to make sure this was going to be sustainable, and obviously, you know, all of us are being coaches knew that, you know, once the season started, it was going to be very hard for us to keep this conversation going and also be good coaches. So one of the things we did was we brought on someone named Renee Spellman, who has really helped us, and she's basically our spokesperson, and kind of become a major leader for us. And she's kind of given us some infrastructure and given us helped us get a team around us where we can make sure that everything is secure. So for the scholarship in particular, we have to make sure that the scholarship is funded by a lot of people in the community. And the one thing about
Did we lose him? Doc, did we lose him?
Yeah, I think we must have lost him.
So the one thing with the scholarship fund that we're presently doing, all of our members are going to start to fund it, and then we're going to look to take outside donations to grow the fund. We would look to the communities that we're in, but I think also all of the coaches, all 21 members, you all grow this social currency in our business where you meet so many great people that want to support what you're doing. But then there's also the people that want to identify with the movement that we've created. So we just signed on to a donor advised fund that we should be able to launch and bring in and be able to bring in donations starting as early as next week. And I think that's a great opportunity to support what we're trying to do. I think there's people that it might be our neighbors, it might be people that you work out with, somebody that knows your kids, or somebody that really feels impacted by what's going on. Well, that's a way to support Coaches for Action. One of the things that we have been doing is people are going onto our website, coachesforaction.org, and just putting in their information and letting us know how they want to try to support or get involved. And that's one of the ways that we're starting to grow the scholarship. And we have engaged in conversations right now with corporations that look like they want to become sponsors and part of what we're doing, where in reality is we're giving opportunities for individuals to become more educated. So we're really excited about the direction of the scholarship fund.
Well, clearly you guys have thought a lot about this situation, the world where we're in right now. And so we have a lot of assistant coaches on here. Some, some are Black, some are Hispanic, some are white, hopefully we have a very diverse group here. So from your standpoint and what you've seen, how can these coaches actually be change makers dealing with, the diversity and the inclusion and social justice and just basically the issue of race?
Yeah, for me, we just had a conversation with the Black Student Union on campus and trying to engage the different campus groups, the different leadership groups that are on campus that deal with diversity, inclusion, that really just deal with integrating a campus of students from all over the world. I think it's important for your basketball teams and as leaders on your campus to be a part of that. I think sometimes we get so focused on wins and losses that we lose sight of all the stuff that goes on our campuses. And it's really important that you integrate your student athletes into that. And I think one of the things that we found in our recent meeting with them was that those kids on our campus, they want to get to know our players as people. And sometimes it doesn't happen because they have so much going on. And they want to get them involved in their groups. They want to support our teams, but they want to really get to know them. So we're starting to develop some programs. I know Justin had a couple ideas that we're trying to do here that I know a lot of other coaches on this call, no matter where you are, they would be excited to hear about that too. Justin, I don't know if you want to share that.
Yeah, and just, in talking with our student athletes, I first and foremost, I think that's, is one of the most important things we can do is just listen to those guys and listen to how they feel and how everything affects them. When the George Floyd situation happened and the Central Park situation happened, where the young lady called the police on a bird watching African American guy and falsely accused him of assaulting her. You think about like, man, how does it make our guys feel? And so we had a meeting and we talked and we listened to our guys. And one area in particular that jumped out was the around police officers and law enforcement and just kind of the uncomfortable feeling that the guys have, whether it's walking down the street, just walking out of their doors. And, idea I had was just kind of bringing those two sides together, starting on a campus-wide level with bringing in the campus police, campus security, and having those guys starting to form relationships with our student athletes and getting to know them. And then they can kind of talk to them about their insecurities about being around officers, and the officers can express themselves. And then maybe growing that to the local police and just kind of expounding it, but and them getting to know each other. And when a officer sees a student athlete out, he can relate to him because hey, he knows him. He's been in campus. He's come to practice and watch him. And we have different outreach type of programs where we incorporate law enforcement. Hey, come over to practice. Come watch us work out. You may have a coach's clinic or whatever for them, but things to kind of engage the two sides so, they can kind of see, hey, what it's like to be a police officer in a sense. And then for the police officer to see, man, this is how not just a student athlete, but an African-American male feels when they walk out of the door, and maybe bridge that gap and create more unity in that way.
One of the things I thought was really interesting, I think from my experience, one of the things I've noticed is that we tend to, for lack of a better term, segregate, our team. They're pretty much together most of the time. They become very close and they have a strong bond. But, do we do enough, like you said, Dwayne and Justin, do we do enough to actually get them to experience people who don't have that same focus, that same commitment, and come from the same background as our basketball players?
I don't think so. I think sometimes, for lack of better terms, your players, they operate in a bubble. They go to practice, they get on the plane, they go to the games, and sometimes they don't have a chance just to be a regular college student. And within that, I think there's some experiences that get lost. We had Marcus Howard here at Marquette, and he created a Christian fellowship on campus. And I went to a couple of the meetings, and it was awesome because there was all these different student athletes talking about life and their experiences and their trials and tribulations. But what he had from that was he had a chance to learn from other kids from all walks of life. I think sometimes, especially in the sport of basketball, that gets lost because you just kind of go through life with just your teammates. So I think it's really important to put a focus on pushing our kids to give them experiences, not only in the community they're competing in, but also on the campus so they can really feel it and get to know it, because there's so many bright kids on our campuses that are learning and becoming leaders and have great opportunities ahead of them. Well, let's make sure our kids have a chance to learn from those individuals as well. I know for us that have been a part of TopConnect, just hearing the questions that other people ask, it makes us grow. That's a huge opportunity within the program that you guys have established. So I know that would be huge for our kids, just in a classroom setting or just in the campus community. It could be an event or a party on campus, but they need to learn from the kids they walk amongst. And those are the same kids that support them as well.
Well, Justin, I know you were a great player in college. And I mean, how much opportunity did you have when you were at NC State to really be involved in different things, or was it pretty much just total focus on basketball?
Well, Doc, I think you're using the term "great" really loosely. I was okay. But yeah, kind of like Coach Killings said, you do operate in a bubble because of the time constraints that you have on your schedule. You're always either you're working out or you're in study hall. It was just not a lot of time, at least for me, outside of, on the weekend or kind of after hours to really be a student athlete. I mean, to be a regular student and be around regular students. We even ate in a different area. And back then you could, the housing situation was such that, we all kind of lived in the same area too. But I think over time, we have realized how important it is, and also listening to our student athletes, how important it is for them to be a part of the regular student population. And, I think being a part of different things on campus and being, whether it's in eating or different study groups or whatever, just being more active on campus will help in that area. But it is tough.
Well, I got a question here from Cliff Warren at Georgia State. So I'm sure you guys know Cliff, and
yep.
His question, I think this is probably, I'm going to kind of modify it. He said, will the head coaches contribute to the scholarship? And I guess kind of going along with that, I'm sure you guys have had discussions with your head coaches, how supportive of, I know I don't want to put y'all in a bad situation, but I mean, how supportive are they? And, are they going to really buy in and be a part of this?
Our second meeting that we had, when we talked about our 3 initiatives that we agreed upon, one of the first things every member had to do was engage with their head coach and their AD to talk about the voting awareness program we wanted to establish, the scholarship fund, and then the Black Lives Matter patch we wanted to get on uniforms for next season. And it's a different conversation. I mean, you're not talking about ball screen defense. You're talking about some things as an assistant coach that in reality, the head coach is going to be reflected in that conversation. So all the head coaches were great. I mean, they supported what we were trying to do. And then to go to the ADs, it's a little different conversation than you're accustomed to having. But the support has been terrific. You kind of have brought to the table, I think, probably one of the next things we're going to do is turn to our head coaches and try to nudge them for a little bit of support, because we're definitely going to make a financial contribution to the scholarship fund. And obviously they got bigger, deeper pockets and a bigger bank account. So we're hoping to get a couple of dollars off them. Although they didn't get their summer camp money, I'm sure they're ready to help us out and try to build what we're trying to do.
So, and then with the ADs, you've had those conversations also. I mean, how, it would seem to me that the ADs should be really interested in actually want to expand what you guys are doing through all the programs. Have you had any conversation about that?
Yeah, I would say, and I'll let Justin follow up, for us, we've had the conversations with the ADs, and I think it's really interesting. I think community to community, the conversations are very different. They're all very supportive of it. But I will say that for all of us, one of the things that we didn't realize when we created this platform, it created a great, on-the-job leadership training for us. Because now you're talking to ADs, in some respects, you're talking to presidents, you're talking to the league office. You have to balance all these different things. You're having media responsibilities. But going back to the athletic directors, it's been terrific because I think everybody understands in our league, basketball is has such a big print, in our business and for our league, and it's the front door of many of our institutions. But with that, it also it goes down to all the other programs. And I think other programs have reached out to our website directly or to our members that they want to support and they want to follow suit, because I think, like Kyle said, it heals a lot of our players. And also, I think everybody knows that if you wear that patch on the uniform, it ensures that there's sustainability in the conversation and people continue to do the great work that we're doing right now. It has to continue because of what that represents.
It seems to me that there's a lot of people out there who want to do something. They just don't know how to do it. So, Justin, can you give us a little of your thoughts on what should people do that really want to get involved, that really want to do something to make a difference, to, get out there and, support, Black Lives Matter, or really, focus on, diversity and inclusion within their program or within their campus? What are your thoughts about how to do that?
Yeah. Doc, I think with everything, it starts with educating yourself first, and, just learning how we got to where we are right now, understanding the social injustice, the diversity, the inclusion, the systematic oppression that we speak about, and learn about it, and take a few minutes, take some time daily, and just kind of find out as much as you can about it. Next, I would say, to impact your student athletes, to impact your community, you got to listen to the people that are there and listen to what their what affects them and how they're bothered by it. And then you do the best that you can to work in those areas. For me, I think, like, when I think about our guys and how they can affect change, it starts with voting. It starts with understanding the voting process, what all of that is, from voter registration to voting polls, where to go vote at, understanding how to fill out the ballot. All of that stuff, can create anxiety sometimes to those who have never done it before. And so it starts there, educating them on the voting process, and then educating them on on the candidates and what they're voting for, and teaching them how to educate themselves on it. And then the other thing I would say is speak out on any injustices, any racial situations that you may come across. And that's not like just going on Twitter and blasting people, but if you're walking down the street and you see something that's not right, and you're with a friend or you're with a colleague, kind of have a conversation about it, talk about it. But I think those are the different areas you can impact. And in different communities and different areas and your different walks in life, you'll see some different ways that you can do it. But just from just in general, those are a few of the things that I see.
Well, I think we got Kyle back on here. I think, I'd like to kind of get his thoughts a little bit about, from the Villanova standpoint, how do you see, your athletic department and your university getting involved in, Coaches for Action?
Well, the first thing is, and sorry about before, I had a little technical issues, but the first thing is that just being supportive is the first piece. We all know it's, issues of race are, hot button issues on college campuses, especially one that's, mostly a white campus. And, to Villanova's credit, I think they've been very, the support has been unbelievable, down from Mark Jackson, our AD, to our head coach Jay Wright, and they've both said they would donate money. They both have gave us advice as we've moved forward, and to me that's honestly the most important thing, because we all know as assistant coaches, if they did not want this to happen, it would not happen. So I wanted to just say that of every Big East school, just think about all the schools are kind of bound by the words that we've been talking about, and for them to have supported has been a blessing. And then to talk specifically to Villanova, we've had a bunch of different things that we've been doing as well. Actually, we've already done things around voting, and that's something that we've done with Coaches for Action. But we also have a bunch of committees that we've started to just give people that aren't student athletes a voice. And I think it's important because we are in a kind of a bubble as a basketball team and programs, because and it's probably rightfully so. We have to focus on things that are on our guys, and we're trying to win games, and we're trying to do what's best for those guys. And sometimes we overlook things that are happening on campus and in our lives. So I think that giving people a voice is something that's very important. That's something we're trying to do at Villanova.
I think, the environment that we have right now, clearly it's pretty tough. And I've seen I've seen in the media a few places where the players have really come back with, pretty significant demands of what they expect. Kind of, how does that fit into what y'all are doing?
Yeah, I think it represents, at the NBA level, it's a different conversation. I mean, those are grown men. That it's a machine behind them, on an individual basis, especially for some of the superstars. I think in our level in college, you have seen your kids start to step out and speak on things that are very deep level, and it's been really impressive. But I do think that people want something that represents them and how they feel, or they want to have something that again carries the conversation beyond where we are. So we felt like, as we talked to our players and as we got this group formed with Coaches for Action, we felt like the patch on the uniforms, it speaks for our players in that way. They're not going to be able to do some of the things that professional athletes do, but they do want to have something that represents them in its own way and it being unique. And I think for our league, what we're trying to do, when we went to Stu Jackson, talked to him about it, he embraced the idea, and it caught his attention so quickly because of the league. I mean, I think the Big East is very innovative. And at the same time, when you go back to years prior, John Thompson, what he did in his time in the league, he was a pioneer. He spoke out. He was motivated to create change for his players, for his community, for college basketball, for coaches, for Black coaching opportunities. So in reality, what we're doing, the league has always done. And I think we're standing on the shoulders of John Thompson. We're walking in the footsteps of all the coaches that have come before us. And we're doing that motivated for the players that we coach and we recruit.
Well, and I think one of the things that happened is, student athletes, like anybody, they're looking for somebody to really kind of help them understand the issues, to really, work with them to get things accomplished. And I think, for you guys, I really, commend you for kind of being ahead of the curve a little bit and, dealing with those things. So now, kind of trying to wrap this up a little bit. What if, the Southern Conference or the Conference USA, Black assistant coaches, what if they wanted to join, or is this pretty much exclusive to the Big East? What is the situation with that?
Well, the founding members will always, direct, I think, the vision of what we're trying to do. We've engaged in conversations on the women's side. The women's Big East assistant coaches will be kind of the next movement with our group. And then what we're hoping to do is have two things. One, we're going to launch an associates program where if it's another coach in our business, or if it's a high school coach or whatever it may be, we'll bring them in. We'll be inclusive in that respect. And then also, we do think, and there's been a lot of conversations just on this call, I've gotten a call from another coach from another conference that wants to kind of find the blueprint of what we're doing and try to take that to their league. So I think there are people that want to fall behind what we're doing. Our first and most important thing that we have to do is get our goals accomplished. And then we can grow our brand and bring people in that respect as we go on from there. But first and foremost, we want to make sure that our 3 initiatives get launched the right way. And we want to make sure we grow at the right speed. We don't want to move too fast because, again, our most important thing is that this is sustainable. This is something that, you'll see Coaches for Action here, regardless of who's coaching in our league. There'll be the next wave of guys that will lead our group and the 3 initiatives that we've established.
So kind of wrapping this up, what advice would let's jump to Justin and then maybe to Kyle. What advice would you have for assistant coaches? What can they do in their situation to really make a difference? So Justin, can you kind of, talk a little bit about that? Then we'll jump to Kyle.
Yeah, Doc. Just what can coaches do? I think the biggest thing is like I said earlier. Educate themselves on the situation, listen to their student athletes, and then take action from there. And the thing I love about this group is that it wasn't just a Zoom call where we all got on and just started talking about the situations that were going on. Like the name of our organization, Action, creating action. And within this group, we came together to create action. And so I think as a coach in your area, in your community, after after educating yourself, listening to your student athletes, now go out and create some type of action in your community and make a difference. And, there's a lot of things around. You just have to look for them. And look for the different organizations that are in your community that are already kind of doing things. And that's a way that, without having to start something from scratch, that you can have an impact, whether it's your local NAACP or help with voter registration, voter initiatives, all of those different type of things. I think that you can do to help out in the cause, but go out and create action.
Kyle, I do have a question here from Steve DeMeo. Of course, he's, at St. John's now and very successful at Northwest Florida. But his question is, has any national organization reached out to join forces with you, like the NABC?
Not yet. not yet. No specific organizations have reached out, but we've had a lot of individual people reach out. And just to talk to your earlier question on things you can do, I think the most important thing to do is just have tough conversations, and have those conversations with people from different races and different sexes and different viewpoints. And I think that like the race conversation has been such a taboo thing to talk about, especially at work, that it kind of, because we don't have the conversation, we start to be more and more divided because you don't get the other person's point of view. And honestly, one of the most impactful conversations I've had have been with people from different races, because you get a sense of what they're thinking about. And I think that that's the most important thing moving forward, is just continue to have those type of conversations.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great answer. That's a really great answer. I think, the more we communicate, the more we engage with each other, the more we understand each other. And I think, what Justin said clearly, educate yourself, understand, how other people look at things. In my career, one of the things I always wanted to do was, I'd ask people on my staff, what are the people, what are the recruits saying? What are our donors thinking? And they'd say, well, this is what I think. And I'd say, well, don't think, ask them, find out what their real feelings, thoughts, ideas were. And I think what you just said is really important. Don't assume, find out, talk, communicate. And I think that way we break down a lot of barriers and really understand one another. So I think that's really, a great way to think about this. I've got one. This is probably a question for maybe Dwayne, from Jonathan Finkel. What does Coaches for Action look like in 10 years from now?
Well, first and foremost, as coaches come into our league, we want to bring them into our group. So there's going to be new faces when you talk about the members of our group. And I think that's exciting, because the world and our sport are going to tell us what things need to be addressed by Coaches for Action. I think it's a great platform that can be impactful. And I think also the league sees the value in us, because we may be able to address some issues that maybe the league or some of the institutions can't, because we're going to feel the pulse of communities and our players and things that we feel as coaches that we want to try to bring to the forefront. What do we want to accomplish on a larger scale? I'd say to you, the biggest thing is we want to endow our scholarship. We want to grow it where maybe it starts out where it's only 2 or 3 people. And then over the years, as you look at 5 or 10 years down the road, and as you grow the brand and we grow the connection points of it, maybe we're touching 10 individuals a year with the scholarship. So I think it's a great opportunity for it to be small today but grow big tomorrow, because I think the biggest thing for Coaches for Action that we want to do is we don't want to just be a part of conversations. We want to create conversations. We want to lead in that respect, and I think it's an amazing platform that can address a lot of different things in our game, in our communities, within our league for years to come.
Well, just kind of like TopConnect, I think kind of the same thing, connect, prepare, lead. And I think, that's what you guys are doing, clearly in an area that's more important than winning games. It's about, changing people's lives and building a society that really kind of comes together. So let's wrap this thing up. Kyle, one takeaway for everybody, what would you give them?
Back to the educational piece, I would say the one takeaway for me would just be just educate yourself on social injustice and just the history of race in this country, and just start to, I think just knowing kind of the plight of African Americans and how just what we've been through throughout the history of this country, I think is important for everyone to just kind of look into.
Justin, I guess that's kind of similar to what you were saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Those along the same lines.
And then finally, Dwayne, any thoughts?
I just think the only thing I'll leave everybody with is I think when this all started, you know, for all of us, our head coach said to me, and I think it's been in the media a ton, is there's a need for leadership. And that's what motivated us. And I think everybody on this call, they want to become better leaders. You can lead in so many ways. You know, you can lead in your community, you can lead in your neighborhood, you can lead in your sport. And don't think, like Kyle said, conversations are so important. Conversations have a ripple effect. You know, when you touch somebody and make them think a little different, act a little different, it makes, again, our communities, our world better. In some ways, it makes our sport better, depending on who you're talking to. So for me, I think the biggest thing is keep leading, keep working at leading. And the more leaders that we have, the better our game will be, the better our society will be.
That's great. I really appreciate you guys. From my standpoint, one of the things I thought was one of the things that I kind of came out of this was, you know, let's not keep our student athletes in that bubble. Let's get them out. Let's let them have some exposure and see different points of view and allow them to, you know, connect and communicate with, you know, people on campus and other folks. I think that's really an important piece. That's just my thoughts on it. But like I said, you know, really excited about what you guys are doing. You know, if we can ever do anything to help support, you know, we're there for you, we being TopConnect. And I'm excited about, you know, this initiative and appreciate, you know, what you've done, Dwayne, what you've done, Justin, what you've done, Kyle. So thanks so much. And I think we're going to shut this down. So I think there's some takeaways there. Educate yourself, understand, you know, all what diversity means and what it looks like, and try to be as inclusive as possible. And, you know, let's fight to eliminate racism and discrimination. So that's kind of what we're closing with. So thanks again, everybody. And we'll probably be back with a doc or a lunch with Doc in, we'll do it every other week. So be on the lookout for that, and it'll be a different topic. But yeah, thanks again. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Doc.
Thanks a lot, Doc.